little less than 30 seconds away from picking up the countdown once again.
Yes, sir. Per that deviation 1022 Alpha, mileage 10K. CTSC can verify his train sync lock. ACC is 85.
Standby, please.
The countdown clock will start now in 5 seconds. 2, 1, mark, and T-minus 9 minutes and counting. The countdown events now being controlled by the ground launch sequencer from now until T-minus 31 seconds, when we begin the switchover to the onboard redundant set launch sequencer. The ground launch sequencer is part of the launch processing system and operates by relaying commands to the onboard computers, which then report back to the LPS system that the commands have been executed. The primary job of the onboard computers is to check that all of the launch commit criteria, such as propellant loads, temperatures, pressures, and other measurements, are normal and staying within their prescribed limits.
Thank you.
The Maryland Island tracking station has gone to high power on their S-band antenna. Coming up on the 8-minute point in our countdown. T-minus 8 minutes and counting.
Flight OTC. Houston flight OTC. PLT OTC. OTC PLT go. Configure fuel cell essential bus source switches.
Orbiter test conductor Mike Key has requested that Houston send the stored program commands, which is the final update on antenna management and frequency changes, and he has asked pilot Ron Graby to reconfigure the fuel cells, and we have gone for orbiter access arm retract.
This slide, Joe?
This is the walkway used by the astronauts to enter the orbiter. In case of an emergency, the arm can be placed back into position within about 15 seconds. Coming up on the 7-minute point in our countdown, T-minus 7 minutes and counting. We're going to be stopping and holding the countdown clock at the T-minus 5-minute point prior to turning on the auxiliary power units and stay there in that position until the weather either clears or does not allow us to go today. Coming up on the 6-minute 30-second point, mark T-minus 6 minutes 30 seconds and counting. Pilot Ron Graby will be asked to set the switches in the cockpit to the pre-start position for the auxiliary power units or APUs at this T-minus 6-minute point. This consists of positioning a number of switches and verifying they're in the proper position, then throwing the 3 propellant isolation valve switches that allow hydrazine to start flowing from the tanks towards the APUs. T-minus 6 minutes and counting.
PLT OTC. OTC PLT go. Perform APU pre-start. APU pre-start in work.
Pilot Ron Graby reporting APU pre-start is in work. Mission Control has transmitted the signal to start the onboard flight recorders. However, those will be turned off after we stop the countdown clock at the 5-minute point.
What do you see, PLT? We have
T-minus 5 minutes, 20 seconds and counting. The clock will be holding.
APU pre-start complete. Great talkbacks on 1 and 3. Barbara Paul on 2. Copy that. CH-20.
Pilot Ron Graby reporting APU free start is complete, and we're at T-minus 5 minutes and holding.
Boiler OK is off. Should be on.
At this point, we will continue this hold. We will not start the auxiliary power units until we have confirmation that the weather is satisfactory and that any other constraints to the launch have been cleared.
OTC, copy.
It's 5 minutes and counting. Ron He has flipped the 3 switches in the cockpit to start 3 of the 3 APUs.
Copy that. SRO NTD. SRO NTD.
NTD SRO, stand by. I'm trying to get the final clear to launch.
CDR
The liquid oxygen replenishing of the LOX tank has been terminated. At this point, the liquid oxygen fill and drain valve is closed. T-minus 4 minutes, 22 seconds and counting. The SRB and external tank safe and arm devices have been armed.
NTD SRO on 212.
Go ahead.
Final clear to launch from the range.
I copy, thank you.
A final clear to launch from the Superintendent of Rain Operations as we come up T-minus 4 minutes and counting.
Sequence 4.
The main engine final purge sequence is underway. The orbiter flight control surfaces, such as elevon, speed brakes, and rudders, now being moved through a pre-programmed pattern to verify that they are ready for launch. T-minus 3 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. T-minus 3 minutes, 30 seconds. All 3 engines now being moved through a pattern to verify their readiness for ascent flight control. After going through their paces, they'll be aligned to their start position. T-minus 3 minutes, 18 seconds and counting. We're coming up on the 3-minute part in the countdown. At T-minus 2 minutes and 55 seconds, the start of external tank liquid oxygen pressurization will begin and the gaseous nitrogen purges of the main engines will be terminated. T-minus 3 minutes and counting.
Let's just go for ET LO2 pressurization.
The liquid oxygen tank being pressurized. The ground launch sequencer has started to retract the gaseous oxygen vent tube or beanie cap on the external tank. The computers will make a final check to ensure the vent arm is fully retracted at the T-minus 37-second point. T-minus 2 minutes.
No unexpected errors. Copy that, sir.
T-minus 2 minutes, 20 seconds. The pilot, Ron Graby, has cleared the caution and warning memory. The crew will be reminded to close their visors on their launch and entry helmets at the 2-minute point. Just 5 seconds away from that.
OTC to flight crew, close and lock your visors and initiate O2 flow and have a good flight. And PLT, OTC, turn on debris camera at T-minus 10 seconds.
T-minus 1 minute, 50 seconds and counting. Liquid hydrogen replenish of the external tank has started and pressurization to flight level is underway.
We are ready to fly. Copy that.
Command.
We'll go on the debris camera. Copy that.
Commander Dave Walker saying they're ready to fly. T-minus 1 minute, 30 seconds and counting. At the T-minus 1 minute point, the ground launch sequencer will verify that the shuttle main engines are ready to start. T-minus 1 minute, 20 seconds and counting. The liquid hydrogen tank now at flight pressure. Coming up on the 1 minute point in our countdown. T-minus 1 minute and counting. The sound suppression water system is now armed. Pre-liftoff water will be released at T-minus 16 seconds. T-minus 50 seconds and counting. The hydrogen burn igniters have been armed. They'll burn off any residual hydrogen gas under the main engines. T-minus 40 seconds and counting. The external tank heaters on the ET to orbiter structural attachments have been turned off. Orbiter computers have, and we have gone for auto-sequence start. T-minus 26 seconds, 25. T-minus 21 seconds. The SRB nozzle gimbal profile underway. T-minus 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. We have a go for main engine start. 7, 6. We have main engine start. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff. Planetary science begins. Atlantis clears the tower.
Atlantis, roll total.
Roger, roll, Atlantis.
This is Mission Control. Your roll program confirmed. Standing by for engines to throttle down. All three engines will be throttled back to 65% performance as the vehicle passes through the area of maximum dynamic pressure. Three engines now at 65%. Velocity now 1,000 feet per second. Atlantis 2 miles downrange. Engines now throttling back up to 104% performance. Atlantis velocity now 1,500 feet per second.
Atlantis, go at throttle up.
Atlantis, roger, go.
Standing by for separation from the SRBs. Velocity now 2,000 feet per second. Altitude 10 nautical miles. Downrange distance 8 nautical miles. This is Mission Control. All APUs looking good. Three engines at 104%. This is Mission Control, SRB, SEP confirmed. Velocity 4,300 feet per second. Atlantis downrange 35 nautical miles at an altitude of 30 nautical miles. Three engines all looking good at 104%.